One of the most requested podcast talks that I've had is for Bagua, Baguazhgang. So I will do a podcast now. I will discuss a little bit the principles of Baguazhang. I just recently on the YouTube channel actually put a short video, just a few minutes, I think it was 8 minutes or something, explained in a basic body mechanic of Bagua, just to kind of show people where I'm coming from. But I will try to explain the theory of Baguazhang and how it works as a system, particularly with regards to the body changing aspect of the style. Because as anyone who's trained with me or listened to anything I've rambled on about knows, transforming the body is one of the most important things with regards to the Chinese martial arts. It will argue with any activity you do, but it's definitely epitomized within the art. So, for example, if you look at someone who does something like Taii a lot more widespread than Bagua, you should be able to see on the body that somebody does Tai Chi. Don't jump to the obvious conclusions, bandy-legged with a bad posture and overweight or something. That's not what I mean. But I mean when they move and when the body is adjusting through the postures, you can see that they have taken time to transform the way that the body functions so that it can do the art. There is a body, a set of conditions within the body that is correct for Tai Chi. And if you don't have these body conditions, then essentially when you do the art of Tai Chi, you're essentially just making shapes. And you can see it. My teacher, one of my teachers, and it's passed down to me, I guess I stole his phrase. One of my teachers used to say, if you see someone who's doing Tai Chi who hasn't transformed their body, it's like watching someone who's wearing somebody else's clothes. You can just kind of see it doesn't quite fit them, it's not their style, it doesn't suit them properly, they haven't built it into their body. So you could argue that's the same for external arts as well. Anything from long fist or karate or whatever, praying mantis, doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you could apply that to external, what we traditionally called external kung fu styles as well. But I would say there's a difference. The difference is if you take an external style, let's use long fist, sort of traditional Shaolin-esque, very stretched out Chinese boxing system. In order to create the body for long fist, okay, you can stretch and you can lift weights or whatever, you can get fit and you can get flexible, fair enough. But the other layer of transforming your body actually comes from repeating long fist. So if I am a beginner and I practice my long fist, my Chan Chuan forms for many, many years, my body will transform as a byproduct of the form. And this applies to many of the other arts as well. If you take something like karate, for example, from the Japanese systems, I spent a long time in that when I was a kid, and many members of my family are involved in that style. And what you will see is that as people perform the kata and the techniques, the kihon, and performing all of this over a period of time, the very act of doing the art transforms your body. So what it means is if you have 30 people who do Shotokan karate or Chinese long fist regularly, daily, whatever, over a period of years, you can't fail for all 30 of those people's bodies to transform to match the style. Perhaps you could say 29 out of 30, because there's always one who doesn't get it, isn't there? You know what I mean? But on the whole, if you just do the art, the outcome is your body will transform, right? So you will see that if somebody in an external art hasn't done enough practice, that's when they will look like they're wearing somebody else's clothes. And of course, sometimes what you find is people that have done karate or done Wing Chun or done long fist, as far as they're concerned, they will say, oh, I've done this for 30 years, but then you will see that their body hasn't transformed. So actually what you realize is they don't practice quite as much as they say. So if you have the eye to see it, you can see the body of the practitioner has transformed for their art. Now, where this becomes more complicated is that within the internal arts, such as Taiji or Bagua or Xingyi, what we traditionally call the internal arts, some people argue about the validity of that definition, but within those kind of styles that we usually call the internal arts, doing the art won't transform your body. It just won't. So if I'm a Tai Chi practitioner of 30 years and I'm super regular and I go through my forms and I ward off, roll back, press push every single day, throw in the second whip, your body will still not transform. It's the nature of the internal arts. If anything, your body will transform in an external way if you're just going through the shapes, much like a long fist practitioner, but it won't transform internally. And the same with Bagua. So if I do Bagua for 20 years, but I do not understand the principles of Bagua, doing the shapes, going through all of the postures and walking around in a circle year in and year out, will not transform my body. Same with Xingyi. The reason for this is because one of the key classifications of the internal arts, or the key ways that we define the internal arts, is that there must be a set of internal conditions that we build into the body that are actually quite separate from the form. So what I do is if we stick with Bagua, although it will apply to the other arts, Taiji and Xingyi as well, what I need to do is transform the inside of my body and the way that it functions so that it is a Baguazhgang body, if you like, meaning that it has certain principles or qualities built into it. Then, and only then, when I start performing the exercises from my system, from my style, the movements will interact with the conditions that I built inside, and that's what will create the correct body. So it's like there's another step involved, and that step is you have to find the internal mechanisms that are inherent within the style. I think that that's not widely known. I don't think that's as widely known as people might realize, or people might think, even though it's kind of suggested within the style. Because, for example, if you go to many classical teachers, it doesn't apply to many contemporary teachers, or not all of them anyway, but if you go to many classical teachers, one thing that was understood, and even actually the majority of the teachers that I encountered in China and Southeast Asia, Taiwan, places like this, was they would say that you must begin with standing. So your style begins from standing still. And there is then a lot of work while standing, static work, before you start to kind of branch out of that static posture into the movements and techniques of the style. So you will hear these crazy stories of, the person had to stand for 3 years or 5 years before he was allowed to train or something like that, or he had to do Santi for 2 years before they would even allow him to do Xingyi. And sometimes those stories are overblown, but the idea is still there. The idea is that the origin point of your practice is a static exercise that then starts to evolve into a series of movements that then branches out into more complex movements. So you're kind of building it like a tree, branching out from this central point. And this is key to the internal arts. So something like Taiji, quite famously, will have maybe a static posture with the arms at the side, or some systems will use more of a, what we commonly call Jamzhong kind of training, to transform the body before they do the style. Xingyi will use something called Santi, Trinity posture, a standing posture that will evolve out into the style of Xingyi. And then Bagua actually has circle walking. So sometimes it has some very static postures, but Bagua is a little different because it has circle walking. Now you might think that's already not a static posture, but it actually is, because the static posture in Bagua is done with the upper body. We call it Dingsha. So you have a series of postures that you may have seen, which is sometimes like this, sometimes pushing away, sometimes the arms are here, sometimes this, and the most famous one obviously to the side, right? The one you'll commonly see, sometimes like this for some systems. So Bagua is a little different because the upper body is still, and the lower body is mobilizing, is walking in a circle while you're performing this posture. Now the system of Bagua I learned actually had a step before that, which actually had standing postures more akin to Taiji, like purely standing. So you had to stand before you even started the circle walking. But either way is fine. So these days, contemporary teachers will often decry or say that the standing postures are not required, that they are incorrect somehow or whatever. But I've never yet encountered somebody that's actually managed to make Taiji or Bagua or Xingyi work internally or get the body correct who didn't do a lot of standing postures. I've never seen that. I don't know if that even exists. I know there was a teacher, a very famous one, who in his later life stopped people doing standing postures, which confused me a lot, but he did a lot of them when he was younger. So I don't know, go figure. And certainly every one of the Taiji teachers and the Bagua teachers I had and Xingyi teachers was very hot on static work. Now the reason I talk about that as an introduction is because if you really want to get the internal mechanisms to take place in your Taiji or your Bagua or your Xingyi, or you want to do it with the right body, you must engage in the static work. It must come first. So let's look at what that is. What is the static work? If we stick with Bagua, let's stick with circle walking. Yeah, it's almost like you have to divide. You have to divide the circle walking into two parts, really, because you have the upper body and the lower body. Because the upper body is really doing the same as Tai Chi, very, very sort of static, holding postures, of course. And then the lower body is doing something else. So if we look at the upper body first and the kind of principles of standing, people would do different things with it. But one thing you should understand is it should never be an endurance exercise. One of the biggest misconceptions you will hear is they say you must hold your arms until your muscle fatigue goes and you come out the other end, and like it's some kind of, like you're Conan the Barbarian sort of walking around pushing that mill or something like that till he gets big over years and years. It's not that kind of thing. You're trying to open up the body, and through the static posture, you're actually keeping your outside body still while the inside of your body goes through a series of processes. So it's actually quite dynamic on the inside. So any classical teacher will get you to stretch things and open things and realign bits inside your body and try to rearrange the skeleton. And they're trying to change the shape of the inside of the body. They talk about cavities in Chinese arts, and they don't mean your mouth, your ears, and your anus or something. They mean the spaces that they're trying to create within the body as they pull you open. So Bagua is no exception, and our first step with the upper body is to pull it open. So this whole concept of kind of collapsed relaxation must go. It is a relaxing the outside muscles and then pulling the body open. It's like you're pulling strands and fibers through your body to pull the skeleton apart, to create more space inside your body. And then this is where it starts to become esoteric, because the next thing you're going to require is qi. And qi has become a dirty word in the internal arts, and I partially understand it. I understand it because of, videos of people doing empty force and claiming magical powers from it and things like this. But what happens is when people get annoyed with that very sort of out there, esoteric, mystical description of qi, is they kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater, and the whole concept of qi disappears from the arts altogether. But your qi must be built up inside your body. So particularly in Bagua, same as Tai Chi, the torso must fill with qi. And this is where I think that many Bagua people have not put in the work, or they've not understood. Because I will try to explain in Bagua how a couple of errors. One, the qi in your Bagua postures does not flow in meridians. That's very important. You're not trying to send qi down your arms and up your arm, flowing, and then down your leg, and up your leg and circulating it around the body. It's not what you're trying to do. It's not some fluid that's running around. You're trying to pressurize and build the qi inside the cavities of your body and the spaces of the torso until it pushes you open in all directions. So one of the things they say with Bagua is your body should fill with qi, similar to what they say in Tai Chi, similar to what they say in Xingyi. Your body should fill with qi. So this qi, there are many ways to look at it. Some people say it's a sort of somatic or conceptual model, and some people look at it more literally. I don't want to get into the arguments of the reality of it. What is more important really is to talk about the outcomes of it, what it does to your body, okay? What it's doing to your body while you're doing Bagua will show you whether your body is starting to develop qi. So my mind is the key to it, and this is where it can be difficult, is my mind and my body must interact. And this is a large part of what I personally teach when I first meet people and I get them involved in the arts, is get them to realize that their mind and their body must communicate, and they must be in the same place. And most people's mind and body are not. And often when people put their mind and their body in the same place by bringing their mind inside, they don't have mind-body cohesion, they have mind-body interference, which is a major thing for people to understand. Mind-body interference, I mean when you bring your mind inside, it just stresses your body out or something like that, or it's no good. It's like the mind is untrained, so it comes inside, so it creates negative impacts. So for the internal arts, we're trying to use a kind of mindfulness, if you want, or a meditative mindset that the mind can come inside and absorb into the body. And this is where you will see these phrases that I will use, like water soaking into a sponge, or my friend Adam will say ink into a blotting paper. Different analogies, but similar kind of meaning. We each have our way of explaining it. And what we mean by this is the mind must learn how to seep like a fluid into every little nook and cranny of your body. And this is a time-consuming process that it's a challenge when if I teach a beginner, it's a challenge to get a beginner to understand that that's going to take time. They usually think it can be done in 5 minutes, whereas my experience is it takes a number of years to get it to a very profound level, to actually get the awareness to soak into all the parts of your body, so your mind and body are occupying the same space. Then from there, what we start to do is we increasingly relax the mind away from any ideas or intent towards this idea of wu wei, or non-governing, just relaxation with the mind, relaxing it into the body. Once the mind relaxes into the body, where the two interact with each other, we will say that qi starts to be produced. Qi starts to be produced. What I've just explained there is to me the reason why many people do not have qi, because they haven't taken the time to soak the mind into the body, into the spaces that they've opened up, and then they haven't relaxed their mind adequately enough that the two can interact, the space in the body and the relaxed mind, so the body can start to produce qi. And if they haven't done that, then the qi is not built up, and then you don't have access to the internal side of the art. That's really what it comes down to. So the next question I guess people will ask is, how do you know when the qi is building, right? Because of course qi has a different definition in qigong, has a different definition in Chinese medicine, and different definition in feng shui. Within Baguazhgang, when the qi builds up, they say it fills the cavities. The result is that the spaces in your body should thicken and become dense. Your body should become very, very thick. It's like your whole body, if you imagine like you went to the gym and you lifted loads of weights and you made the outside of your body very tight, okay? You've got a six-pack and ripped pectorals and super strong from lifting the weights. That would be externally packing your body and making it nice and strong. Internal is a little different. By bringing the mind inside and stabilizing it into the spaces or the tissues in the body, the qi starts to be produced so that the inside of your body starts to push out. You feel like your ribs expand and your back expands and everything gets thicker. And it's almost like you've done the weightlifting on the inside. So your body becomes packed and pushed outwards as a result of your training. And this is where you can start to see it on a practitioner's body. If I look at a Baguazhang practitioner who hasn't managed to get their mind and their body interacting, you can see there's no pressurization of their torso. They're not filling. Whereas if you see someone who's managed to do it, there's a very particular quality where the whole body looks like it has a inflated buoyancy to all of the joints. The ribs will open, the diaphragm will open, everything is pushed out, the spaces in the shoulder, and you can start to see it. If it's not done, then you really have a couple of choices. You can either kind of do loose Bagua, where everything is like a ribbon, or you can lift weights and do a sort of contractive version of Bagua. And you will see people that never really found the qi trying to choose one or the other. And I very much remember going around Beijing a lot of years ago now, and going around to all the Bagua groups I could find, and some of them were in the parks. There's 3 or 4 parks in Beijing. Yeah, probably safe to say 3 or 4 that are easier to find Baguazhang practitioners in. And then there's sort of schools and things for the more well-known ones. I tried other places as well. I tried Singapore's Bagua schools, and some in Taiwan, Taipei, very well represented for the style and things, and sort of looked around at the schools. And I did find that as well as there being some practitioners that were very good, of course, the majority of them had fallen into one of those 2 camps. So they'd never really found the qi. So they either did one of 2 things. They went down the super loose Bagua road. So everything was very ribbony and wushu-y, and if I just make my body coil as much as I can, then some amazing martial power will arise. Or they went down and normally those schools valued flexibility and sort of contemporary wushu ways of moving. Or they went down the other route, which was they wanted to turn it into an external style. So basically they lifted weights and did resistance training and made everything very, very stiff and kind of got bulky, so that they found some power in their art. And it wasn't really based on that same sort of circular fluidity anymore, but it also wasn't based on the correct principles of building qi inside. The few Bagua people I've met who understood it, and it was a very few who in my view understood the system, understood that the quality of the mind inside the body is what made a difference. And one of the key for them was they were both, two people I can think of, they were both meditators. Both meditators. One more from a Taoist perspective, one was very much involved in Chan Buddhism. So they already kind of had a prior training in a mental state that then they applied into their body, and the result was when the mind and the body worked together, rather than what usually happens for most people, the mind and the body interfering with one another, then their body immediately started to fill with qi and started to grow. I would say that for any practitioner of any internal art, that is your first port of call. If you're really serious about the art, that applies to Tai Chi, that applies to Jingyi, that applies to Bagua as well. So now, what happens when your body starts to become thick with this substance of qi is a new phenomena arises where your yi, your thought patterns, even with a subtle suggestion, will start to change the configuration on the inside of your torso. It's very hard to explain this to you, but obviously people have been requesting the theory of Bagua, so I'm going to try. Basically, I can explain the feeling, my subjective experience of it. Maybe yours will be different, but if I inflate my body with qi, by spending a lot of time with my mind inside and opening up the body, then my body feels like it's inflated. And there are various spaces inside my body. The left and right sides of the chest feel like they're expanded. There's space in here. Solar plexus feels expanded. Side of my ribs feel expanded. Abdomen feels expanded. Feels like my back is expanded. It's like a series of balloons that are sort of pushing out. It goes into my arms and so on and so on. Now, when I let my mind go into the body and then relax my mind, it opens up more. Like naturally, the interaction between mind and body causes all of those connective tissues inside my body to expand. And through Baguazhang's terminology, we would say that is a form of qi. And that qi is taking place because my mind, which is mindful and relaxed, is able to interact with the body. And when the mind and the body touch, then the qi is produced. So now, with my mind inside my body, okay, the qi becomes a bridge between my intent and my body, meaning that now when I think something, my body will change in accordance with what I think, right? This brings you to a phrase that comes up a lot in the martial arts, which is I leads the qi. Intent leads the energy, I guess they translate it to in English. And it gets horribly misunderstood. So what people will think is this. If I put my mind on my palm, all of my qi that I don't have, because I've not spent years cultivating, it will rush to my hand. If I take my mind and I move it in a circle around me or imagine an opponent, my qi will do something. That's not how it works, okay? What I need to do is build the mechanism where the I and the qi actually interact. So when my mind goes into the body to interact with the body, then what happens is the qi builds. Now my I and my qi will influence one another. So if I go into my body and I allow my I to make a small change, then the inside of my body will pressurize and switch. And you can see my body starts to move. And I just allowed my mind to reshape the insides. So now it's not, it is the I lead in the qi, but it's not. It's more like the I and the qi are the same thing. So when my I or my mind moves, the body moves with it. So what it brings you is a level of mind-body connection and control that is higher than anything you could produce through a conventional mechanism. And it will only come from long periods, and I do mean long periods, of soaking your mind like a fluid through the body to achieve a kind of somatic mindfulness so that your body transforms. Some of you listen to this will already say word salad and it doesn't make sense or something like that, and fair enough, maybe. Or maybe there's a chance that you just haven't gotten deep enough into your martial art, because I would say that this isn't a particularly complex or not a particularly advanced aspect of the arts. I would say this is the most fundamental aspect of the internal arts. So until you have managed this with your body, you are still doing external arts. So it doesn't matter what your forms look like. Maybe you know the best Gao style form or the best Chung style form, or maybe you can do Sun style, Bagua, whatever. You're still doing it like external Kung Fu. You may as well be doing Long Fist or Wing Chun or karate or something like that, just with circles in it, you know. The actual mechanism to shift you from into accessing, shift you to be able to access in the internal arts is this that I've just described. the mind needs to soak through the body until the body opens up and fills so that your yi can reshape the body. So this really is where the arts start to diverge. They break off, because Tai Chi then very much, if you take the Tai Chi route, a lot of Tai Chi very much studies this idea of release, you know, and people sometimes will not understand what release means in Tai Chi. And basically, if your mind and your body are not interacting via the Qi, if you release in Tai Chi, well, there's no impact upon your body. You know, what I do with my mind is not impacting my body. So for example, if I go like this, and then I release, I will just, like I let go, it will collapse, right? But if my mind and my body are interfacing with one another to a high level, and the Qi is serving as a bridge between the mind and the body, when I release, the Qi will mobilize and start to move, okay? So it will start to shift through my body, and this becomes the mechanism which Tai Chi studies. So Tai Chi, at its kind of intermediate to higher levels, becomes the study of mental release that reorganizes the body so that the Qi and the Jin mobilizes, okay? And of course, different lineages will do it in different ways, but that's kind of a kind of core quality of Tai Chi. Bagua is a little different. Bagua does not study the art of release in the same way, right? So this is where Tai Chi and Bagua differ. So another error people will have is they will say Tai Chi and Bagua are the same thing. They say they are the same. Bagua just goes in circles. That is not true. They are fundamentally different because they are based upon different principles of mobilizing the force. Tai Chi mobilizes the force, especially the Yang style and all of its derivatives, will mobilize the force via release. So they fill the body, they get the Yi and the Qi linked into one, then release the mind until the Jin mobilizes. Okay, Tai Chi is release. Bagua is different because it's not based upon release. It's based upon something very, very clever, which is the circle. So they replace the I with the circle. This is the kind of core of Bagua. It's a very, very clever concept, and it took me a long time to understand, years. Because if you've ever seen Bagua, I'm sure you have, or you wouldn't be listening to this, or you can go look it up at least. What it will start with is somebody walking in a circle. And normally it's probably a couple of meters across or something like that. It's not too big usually. And you walk in a circle, and then they will do something with their palms, they change direction, they come the other way. But there is a lot of walking in circles. And there's not many martial arts that would ask you just to walk in a circle, right? So one of the biggest debates, of course, in Bagua is what is the reason for the circle? And you see all these people trying to discuss it. Why do you walk in a circle? And you would have thought for something as fundamental as the core aspect of Baguazhgang, there would be some consensus, at least, you know, like within a martial system, for people to disagree about what the most obscure techniques do, fair enough. But you would have thought the fundamentals of the technique, of the system, everybody would agree upon, because it should be a given. But in Baguazhang, people can't even agree on the fundamentals of what the style is for. So of circle, why do you walk in the circle? So I was told all these crazy things when I was younger, and many of these, because I studied Bagua when I was a teenager, but I don't really count it. Do you know what I mean? I learned an external version of Bagua. I did some Liang style and some Sun style, but it was external, you know, and I dropped both systems, but I did start when I was younger. So circuit walking, what they would say is it's for training footwork. That was one of the reasons they would say you walk the circle to train footwork. And I do remember being confused by that, thinking, well, you train footwork in boxing. Like the boxing I'd done had a lot of footwork drills, and in my eye, much more efficient. Like learning to step and also shift my weight, my head and things, and step off the line, a lot more effective. So the footwork thing never made sense to me. Then people told me a martial strategy so that you learn to dodge or evade, and people would say things like you're supposed to pop up behind your opponent, and I was thinking I'd have to be very fast to walk. I'd almost have to like blind and paralyze him to be able to walk behind him. I don't really understand. So that concept didn't make any sense to me. And then other people said it was just about putting a constant twist on your body, which to me, so none of these made sense. Then you get the other side of the scale, which was all very esoteric and hippie-ish, and they would say, and I literally heard this, you walk in the circle because it matches the movement of the planets and the stars, and then the cosmic deities will shower you with magic, or I don't know, something like that. It's like the other end of the scale, you know, it all became very hippie-ish. Actually, My experience in Bagua showed me that none of those are correct. The circle walking replaces the E from Taiji. So I'll explain this. I will try to explain my take on circle walking. Yeah? In Taiji, if I want to mobilize the Jin, okay, I mobilize the inside of my body. My mind and my body occupy the same space, okay? And then what I do is I let the Qi mobilize inside, and I want to put a different mental condition onto the Qi. So I release my mind, and then the Qi moves, and then my body will move, okay? And therefore I am releasing and songing all the way through my body. As I go to here and I turn, I'm allowing the inside of my body to inquire, to mobilize because of this releasing of the Qi and the Jin as I move. In Bagua, the circle does it for you. So, if I take a circle and I walk in it, okay, and I've got my hands out like this, and I'm walking in the circle, if there is no Qi inside my body, the circle will do very little, realistically. The circle will do very little, because as I walk around like this, okay, it's torquing my body, okay, it's torquing my hips, okay, it's torquing my legs as I move, and I'm putting a twist on the body. But there are many arts that twist your body that don't use a circle, so it's not really required. But if, however, I have this Qi inside my body and the body is filled, and the body is mobile, the Yi and the Qi are combined, when I walk in a circle, the Qi inside my body will reconfigure itself according to the center of the circle. It is the weirdest thing. So if I walk in a circle like this, I'm sat on a chair on a podcast, so I can't really demonstrate too much, and also some people listen to it on audio. But I'll try to describe it. When I turn around to the front or into the center of my circle, my mind is filling the body, so my body is full. Okay, the Qi is towards the surface. They say the Qi must be like radiating towards the surface of your body, okay, filling up. Then when my mind goes to the middle of the circle, plus listening to my body, as I start to walk, the Qi inside my body will start to reconfigure according to the circle, right? So it is very much as if, it is not literal, but it is as if you have a magnetic field. It's not literal, don't get excited, but it is as if you have a magnetic circle, okay, ring, and I am walking around this magnetic circle, and the Qi inside my body is constantly rearranging and twisting according to that field. And sometimes it can feel so much like it that you mistakenly think it is a magnetic field, but it's not that. It is because if I have the Qi and it is full inside my body and my mind goes to a certain place, then the Qi will start to mobilize towards that area. So meaning, doesn't mean anything will flow out of me like fluid, it's not that. It means that the chambers and the pressurization inside my body will reorganize themselves in that direction. So it will stretch my power that way. So if I have a practice where I am walking in a circle for long periods of time, where I am practicing mindfulness into the body and I have my mind outside, my body will start to twist and reshape, meaning you will build a huge amount of pressure inside your body. So one of the first things, for example, that many people notice when I teach them how to circle walk this way is they instantly feel sick. It's like car sick, seasick, air sick. You know, that horrible nausea you might have had on being on the back of a bus on a windy road or something that's hideous. You will get that feeling. And you will spend the first few weeks walking around in that circle just feeling hideously sick. And a part of the reason you feel hideously sick, and it will pass, thankfully, but part of the reason you feel hideously sick is because all of the insides of your body are rearranging. The Qi body that you built, the fullness, is rearranging in relationship to that circle. And it twists and it feels disgusting because it feels like your guts are turning and everything is switching like that and your body has to get used to it, right? So if I circle walk in this way and then I circle walk in the other way, the whole of the inside of my body will start to shift and reorganize to that point, which will make your body connections very, very strong, hyper powerful. Because instead of like Tai Chi, which also makes it powerful, you know, sunging to release the Jin, instead of studying release, I study a fixed intent that I am mobilizing around. And the reorganization of the inside of my body will make the chambers in your body, the cavities, pressurized, the tissues very thick, and a lot of power will start to build into your body as a result of this very simplistic practice of circle walking. But if you don't have all of the stuff I talked about at the beginning, the E and the Qi inside your body, and the body's starting to fill up, it won't do it. It simply won't do it. So I've seen many videos of people circle walking, or met many people who do Bagua, where you can just see they haven't got it. You know, like the chambers aren't full, the chi is not there, the tissues aren't stretching, it's not mobilizing, the I and the chi are not combined. They're essentially just doing an external art while walking in a circle. They may as well not walk the circle. So this circle walking becomes the fundamental power development aspect of Bagua. Now then, there is an interesting phrase you will see discussed in Bagua, and the phrase is correct, but I think the interpretation is slightly wrong. You will see people say, you walk the circle to open all the channels. And it's actually a correct phrase, but the definition of channels is wrong in many people's interpretation. So walk in the circle to open the channels. Again, people think we're talking the meridians from Chinese medicine. You know, so if I just walk around in circles, then my lung channel will be open, or my large intestine channel, and my small intestine channel, my stomach channel, my spleen, my chongmai, my renamadu. If I just walk in the circle, as if the walking in a circle will magically do something, okay? Firstly, nothing will open if you haven't gone through the stage of mindfulness into the body until it fills out, till it's massively pressurized. That must come first. And then secondly, we must understand that the channels it's talking about are not the same thing as Chinese medicine, so we'll not do those things. The channels that it means are the pathways for the jin through your body, similar to what Tai Chi calls Jin Lu, the path or the road of the force. Now, these pathways of force are not, you know, like Tom Meyer's anatomy trains, like wrapped lines through the body. That's not what they are. What they are is, this is how your channels open, in the way they're described in Bagua. If I wish to move force through my body, the force will disappear when it hits a hollow. It's kind of an internal arts rule. And you can kind of think of it simply. If I have a space here, for example, when the force travels through my body, it can conduct, and then there's a space, so it just dissipates. And you could have that anyway, it just dissipates, okay? So what I do is I fill out the body until it is very, very dense. Now when the force moves through, it can conduct through all that density. It moves through all the spaces that I've filled up. Once that jin and that qi can move freely across your entire body without hitting any, what they call hollows, meaning it won't dissipate, we now say that the channels are open. So weirdly, channels of this force moving, right? So weirdly, channels open kind of means you don't have any channels. In a weird way, because all your channels open means your entire body must be pressurized until it is one big channel of force, so that when my yi changes, the whole of my body can shift on the inside to create that change on the outside of my body. Okay? This will come from the circle walking if you go through the principles I said at the beginning to get the I and the Qi combined and the body open up and filled, dense. And this is again what I think many people fall down on. I almost think that that process I talked about at the beginning has been lost from the majority of internal arts lineages, or the majority of internal arts teachings. And it's the same for Qigong, it's the same for Bagua and Tai Chi, because the arts should make your body dense and your Qi full, so that it radiates and fills your entire body. And that is the key to the arts, and that's what many people do not have. So then, in Bagua, where we're up to so far, we have the basics of circle walking, Dingsha. And what they do is they have a series of postures that might vary lineage to lineage, which is basically to push the power into different regions of the body as I walk that circle. And as I walk that circle, my jin will rearrange in relationship to the yi being in the center of the circle to create this pressurization through the inside of the torso. Very, very powerful. What it means is that circle walking even becomes a phase in your training. A phase in your training. Sometimes Bagua people don't realize this. So what do I mean by this? How about this? Standing practice is a phase in your Tai Chi. So at the beginning you're stand like this, okay? Until my body is full and everything is mobile, then actually the standing is not really needed. Actually, when I do the Tai Chi form, it mobilizes what I built in the standing. And maybe you return to it every now and then to keep it topped up, but it's a temporary phase. Circle walking is the same. It's not the be-all and end-all. Once I have filled the body up with the Dingsha and I have walked the circle to bring the power into my body, and I've done enough that it's starting to talk to the center, which might take decades. We're not talking 6 months or something. Once you've got that, actually the circle walking ceases to serve much function either. And what you will start to see as Bagua practitioners at that level will even drop the circle. And it's funny that we associate the whole system with the circle walking, but actually, once again, it becomes a fairly temporary thing. You have this interesting phenomena that you have to twist your body, right? Okay, to apply a torque into the body. But when the body is full, it's so full and pressurized, you can't twist your body. It's like, if I wish to twist my body, I'm not totally, full to the level of a Bagua master, but if I empty all the connections out of my body, I can turn my body quite a lot. But if I bring my mind into the body, so my chi is very full, it's actually very hard for me to twist my body. So even the torque becomes smaller because of the pressure inside the chambers of my so system. At that stage, when there's not an ability to apply a torque on the body, even the circle walking becomes kind of pointless. And then your training changes to something else. But maybe I shouldn't talk about that because it's so far down the line in Bagua. It's kind of one of the further ends of it, Same with Tai Chi practitioners. There's Tai Chi masters who rarely do much in the way of form anymore. There's Bagua practitioners who very rarely do much in the way of circle walking. It gets to that stage, I'm not there. I still need to circle walk. So that's our kind of start point for Bagua, but then we have the dividing of the body into 8 sections. And this is what I was starting to talk about in the video that I previously did. The 8, of course, it's 8. It's Bagua, isn't it? 8 means 8 trigrams. So Bagua, 8 sections of the body. So basically the 8 regions of your body must be separated and filled with qi. And this is quite unique to Bagua. Tai Chi will often divide your body into chambers, upper and lower. Sometimes it will divide left and right, and then eventually the qi flows so freely that yin and yang harmonizes in the torso. Bagua very much focuses on 8 regions, and these are as follows. Okay, above and below, meaning chest and abdomen, left and right sides of your body. Okay, talks about back of the body and front of the body being separated, so that they can harmonize with one another. So I'm trying to harmonize upper and lower, left and right, front and back, front and back. And then the 7th and 8th directions are inside and outside. Inside and outside. Okay, the inside of my system, inside of my body, must be harmonized with the outside space. Those are the 8 directions, not the compass directions like you would think. It's a 3D art. Compass directions are 2D, yeah? 3D art. Okay, so up, down, left, right, front, back, inside, outside. So as your body starts to fill and pressurize, these 8 chambers will separate and balance one another. So you have this strange concept. Everybody wants to make their whole body one unit, and actually you often have to pull the body apart before it becomes a unit. It's a strange thing. Like that line from the Tao Te Ching that something must be made straight before it can be bent, or something must be made hard before it can become soft. In Baguazhgang, we must divide up all the regions of the body before they can work together. Yeah. So you will go through a stage where you are pulling and separating the front and the back and the sides and the inside and the outsides, upper and lower part of the body, pulling them apart, but it all has to be done via the yi and the qi. This is one of the most important aspects of Bagua, is I don't create that separation by trying to do it externally, like do something with my shoulders or my ribs or something like that, my posture. It is done internally with the mind. So if, for example, I wish to separate upper and lower, my mind must go inside, and then I must release the quality of mind and allow the qi to sink until the bottom is dense and the top is empty. This means that inside, the upper and the lower are starting to communicate with one another. They are harmonized, empty and full, so that the qi can move inside my body freely. Whereas if I allow the qi to come up, so there is no distinction between upper and lower, then actually the qi doesn't flow. Tai Chi would say you're double weighted, but it doesn't move inside. So upper and lower must be separated according to the action of my yi until the bottom is full and the top is empty. And then we do this to the left and the right and the front and the back and the inside and the outside, and you will have to be taught that really, but Baguazhang tries to separate that. So now you have a circle walking system where the body is reconfiguring to a point of intent, and the yi and the qi is separated by these 8 parts. Now you have the Bagua body. Now you have the Bagua body. And we haven't even talked about spirals or twists or any of those things, just dividing the body up, right? It is at this stage, when you've got to this stage in Bagua, which is normally done through static circle walking and standing and stuff like that, that you start to learn the postures. the palm changes, single palm change, double palm change. You start to learn the coiling. You start to move your body into the shapes, because the outside shapes that you're learning will relate to the inside conditions inside your body. And if you haven't done that work, then the outside shapes will not relate to the inside. Okay, this is why that work must be done to transform the body in Bagua first. So I'm keeping on the time because I don't want to make this a giant podcast. Maybe if I end up doing more on Bagua, I'll do it in parts. But on this particular one, I want to talk about the Bagua body more than anything else. Now, if you try to do the shapes, do the postures, do the movements of Bagua, single palm change, double palm change, turning body change, whatever you're doing, if you try to do the shapes without the Bagua body, you essentially just create external patterns. So this means that your Bagua will follow these kinds of principles, which are spiral with your arms, turn your waist, twist your spine, turn your hips, hold a center line. External principles. External principles. External arts are based upon those principles. Okay? Internal arts are not. It means that you are trying to perform it wearing the wrong clothes. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, that you can't just do Bagua and think your body will transform. I can't perform the Chung style form or the swimming dragon body form and expect my body to transform, because it will not. You have to transform the body by doing the work so that you have the conditions and the qualities there so that you can then start to do the movements, right? If, however, that you have built the Bagua body and then you start to do the movements, then the inside and the outside, remember that's two of the directions, will connect up very much. Meaning that if I take my hand and I adjust the position of my palm, the inside of my body will change in relationship to my palm. Or at the same time, if I change the conditions on the inside of my body, it will change the palm. The inside and the outside are configured together. And now it means that the inside of my torso and my body is highly mobile as I am doing the Bagua. So my whole body is changing under pressure as I move. It's tight in there. It's tight because it's pressurized. All the chi is pushing out. And the more I relax my mind, the more the pressure is built to push my body out to create that strength. So it means that you don't use your hips. You don't turn your waist. You don't hold a center line. You don't try to make spirals. None of those things. All of those are externalizations. Curiously, you don't even twist your spine in Bagua. One of the most common things you'll hear people say, turn the spine. No, don't turn your spine. Build the body up with chi and then turn from the inside of your torso, which means the spine will twist as a byproduct of that and coil around the inside of your body. So if I go into the center of my body and I turn my torso, my spine is kind of twisted on the back of my body, but it's different from trying to turn the vertebrae themselves. Okay, and that's a really important distinction. But until you've got the mind and the chi and the yi combined, you can't turn the inside of the body, so the spine won't twist as it's supposed to. Purely from a biomechanical or physical perspective, I don't really want to do a martial art with my spine twisted, because your vertebra, it doesn't matter, I know you've got back muscles and stuff, but your vertebra are very small, right? It's a very small joint with a little disc in there. And I don't really want to be turning that to create my power. Like I don't want to be holding my spine in because bang, if I take pressure in the spine, it's going to damage the spine. And that's a common misconception in Bagua, because people will think, well, I twist the body so the back muscles get very strong or something. It's not true. I am not turning the spine. I am turning from inside, rotating inside the center of my body, using the E, so the chi reshapes, so that my body reconfigures, and then my spine is twisted, and hopefully you can understand it's kind of wrapped around the center of my body, meaning that the force is coming from the middle of my torso, not from those tiny little gaps where the discs sit inside your spine. If you try to do Bagua from the spine, you can get very flexible, because I can turn all the way to the back if I've got a very loose spine, but you'll be very weak. If I turn from the inside, you can't turn quite so much. Even getting to the center of the circle with your arms and your body is hard work, but your spine is not the thing that is taking the force, so you're not working with these really weak vertebrae. This is a fundamental concept of Baguazhgang. So I walk the circle. letting the inside of my body reconfigure, constantly working, allowing my mind to soak like water into a sponge until the body-mind start to work together so the chi starts to build. And the more the chi builds, the more it reconfigures to what I'm doing so that this inside and outside can start to combine, so that I get this huge amount of mobilization of chi and jin on the inside of my body when I'm performing the movements in Bagua. Okay? You will become, if you do this, very strong, very, very strong. And your strength is based upon the power that comes when your body fills from the release of the mind into your tissues. It's not the kind of strength you get from lifting something. I was looking for a weight, but there's nothing heavy around. They've only got light objects. It's not the same as the resistance you get from lifting a heavy object or going to the gym. It's not the same as the resistance you get from sort of locking your body as you move around. It's not that. The resistance is created because my mind is inside and I'm released, and then the tissues are twisting in relationship to what I'm doing with my body or what I'm doing with the circle. Before you even go further in Bagua into concepts such as single palm change and double palm change, what these things are, what constitutes a single or double palm change, anything like this, these are the fundamentals of Bagua. You must transform the body in this way. All of that work is done before you even learn the palm changes or the forms, usually, or can be. There's nothing wrong with learning some palm changes alongside it, learning how to shape your body and do some moves, blah, 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 but they're not really going to work properly. All of this work is done in what they call the Dingsha. Okay, well, this is how I was traditionally taught it, which is circle walking while holding static postures with the palms. So if I teach people Bagua, usually alongside meditative work, online I do it with people, and the first year is just Dingsha, just movement with those palms. Realistically, when I'm teaching people in person, sometimes it's a bit longer, but they have to go through that process of doing the static palms to create the Bagua body before they even look at the style, before they even look at the systems and the techniques and the fighting strategy and all of those things. Maybe I will stop it there. It's a hard one, isn't it? It's a podcast. So by its very nature, it's theoretical, and some people listen to this when they're in their headphones or while they're driving their car or whatever they're doing, so it has to be theoretical. And some people were asking me to explain the theory of Bagua, but it's a challenge for me to describe the processes you go through your body in this way. But I've done my best, I'll do my best. So if I stop this one at part 1, okay, and I will say this is how you develop the Bagua body. This is kind of Bagua doing the Dingsha, the static palms, which I know many of you out there who do Bagua will do, right? They'll be part of your training. Maybe this will be of no help whatsoever, this video. Maybe it will make no sense to anybody at all, in which case I'll call it a bad job and leave it at that. But if it is something that people find useful, I'm prepared to do a second part where I will discuss the difference between single and double palm change and what these things are within your body, the theory of how this mobilizes the jinn. But let me know in the comments, because if this is already too hard to get across purely theoretically, then there's not much point me doing it. So let me know.